all the unique characters,
I do let him bang. Yeah, I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm a legend, man. I'm building my legacy.
all the stories and perspectives featured weekly.
I wasn't fully committed to that choke, and I kind of sunk into it, started squeezing tighter, and I kind of heard him gurgle a little bit. I was like, oh.
And all the combat sports you could ask for in the best state in the U.S.
Like I said, Ohio versus the world. It's going to happen for sure. Watch out.
It'll be cool, man. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to show them why the Ohio MMA scene is, in my opinion, one of the best MMA scenes in the country.
This is Forged in OH.
I-O.
OH.
I-O.
OH.
I-O!
Hello, everyone, and welcome on in to episode 82 of Forged in Ohio. My name is Jake Murren, as always, the host of the podcast, and I'm really excited about today's episode. I was on the call for this fighter's amateur debut in February. Since then, he's rattled off 2 more wins, the most recent one taking place at Cage Thunder 27 on June 1st. He improved his record to 3-0 with all those wins coming in the very first round. Representing Apex Fight Systems, it's Jack the Ripper Schaal. Thanks for coming on the show, Jack, and welcome to Forged in Ohio.
Thanks for having me. I'm real excited for this.
Yeah, as am I, and doing so on vacation nonetheless. I really appreciate the time here. Let's dive right into your 3 amateur fights. The latest one went down a few weeks ago at Cage Thunder 27. You won via leg scissors submission in the first round. Can you walk me through that first round and the process of securing that unique position to force that tap?
Well, if I'm being honest, I really didn't think that was going to end it. I was more so trying to get to almost like a north-south position and try and like pull an arm away from the body and work like an arm, some sort of arm submission. I wasn't really sure where I was going with that at the moment, but I kind of just felt my legs wrapped around his neck in a weird way, so I squeezed it down to try to make it a little uncomfortable. And when I did that, he kind of just freaked out a little bit, I think, and switched over to the side, and it just got right on the sides of the neck and squeezed it down, and that was it.
Is a leg scissors submission something that you've done in the gym, or was it something that maybe you weren't too experienced with and it just came to you in the moment of the fight?
That came to me in the moment of the fight. I walked out the ring afterwards and I was talking to my coach and I was like, dude, I've never practiced that. I've never seen that. I don't know where that came from. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, sitting in the crowd that night, I was listening to the ring announcer, Jake Digman, and he said leg scissor submission. I was like, holy crap, that's actually an insane submission that you pulled off. And being where I was, I couldn't really see what was happening in the cage. Was that kind of the game plan coming into this fight, though, against Joey Klein, to get this one to the ground and maybe look for a submission, if not land some ground and pound along the way?
Absolutely. I mean, I gotta respect him. He was a great striker. He hit hard, and he knew how to control distance real well. I was having a hard time landing my inside leg kick trying to find distance, and then I got him into the clinch, and that's kind of where I felt comfortable. And I was like, I want this one down on the ground. But yeah.
Of your 3 first-round stoppages, this was your first via submission. How does that compare to the first 2 wins that you have on your MMA record?
I would say I'm not gonna complain about a finish, but I much prefer knocking someone out. I think it feels a lot better, and it's a lot more exciting in my opinion.
Yeah, it's hard to complain with all these first-round stoppages that you have on your record. We'll get to some of those knockouts here in a moment. I feel like it's a silly question to ask, but I'd have to assume that you're happy with that performance, with that finish at Cage Thunder 27.
Like I said, I'm not gonna be mad with an early finish, but I also try to look at what I could have done better in my fights, and in that one, I feel like it's more so the fact that I've never trained that, and I don't know, it was a great submission, don't get me wrong, but I'd much prefer it be like me getting to a very technical position, like working my way to your back and working in a rear naked choke or an arm bar, but again, can't complain about an early finish.
All right, so your second fight against Tyler Triplett at Cage Thunder 26, you won via knockout, slamming him to the ground with an insane takedown. In that moment, when you throw him onto the canvas, are you aware at the time that he's out and you got that knockout right there and then?
I didn't think the slam was what got him. I mean, it was probably because I was just in the moment, and when I watched it back, the slam got him. But I thought it was the ground and pound afterwards for a while because he just kind of like had his head turned up looking at me, and I couldn't tell if he was. The ref didn't pull me off, so I was just gonna keep going until the ref pulled me off. I kind of see it like football, you just play with a whistle. So that's what my plan was.
The finish went absolutely viral on social media. What was your reception to that like afterward? And did you get any messages maybe that stick out about how crazy of a knockout that was?
Yeah, it was weird to me. Well, not weird. It was cool. It was very cool because I had a lot of my buddies who would come up to me and they were like, "That was crazy, good job." But the one that really stuck with me was my buddy. His name's Josh. He doesn't fight or anything, but he just calls me after the fight. He's like, "Dude, I had family come in from like Cleveland, and they were like, 'Do you know this Jack Schaal guy? Like, we're coming to watch him.'" And he's like, "Yeah, that's one of my like really good buddies." So it was really weird to see like how small the world is and see his family coming to watch me and not even knowing that we're buddies.
Is that a surreal feeling when you find out that you have fans that are a relative to your friend that you didn't really know of before and they're coming to see you fight?
Yeah, it's a crazy feeling because, dude, I get locked in a cage and try to beat someone up. Like, it's so simple, but people love it, and I love it. So I just love putting on shows for people.
The knockout against Tyler Triplett, I remember Jeremy Riley, your teammate, had an insane knockout on that same card. And in an interview with him, I asked him, I was like, what do you like better, your knockout or the one that your teammate Jack Schaal had? He gave it to you. So this knockout, the slam knockout, do you think it will be awarded Ohio's Amateur Knockout of the Year in 2024 when the end of the year comes around, or do you not really think about that kind of stuff?
I mean, I haven't thought about it too much, but that's a cool award to get. I'd love to have it. But there has been some great knockouts this year, great fights. So, if it doesn't go my way, it's not the end of the world. I've always have more fights where I can turn into some crazy knockouts.
Yeah, well, I certainly think that one's up there and deserving of some votes. Talking with Jack the Ripper Schaal here on Forged in Ohio. If I told you on January 1st, 2024, that in the next 6 months you would go on to make your MMA debut, fight a total of 3 times, and win them all within the very first round, would you have believed me?
I think after that first one, I would have told you you're crazy. But, I feel like my confidence has just been growing and growing, and I'm not expecting a first round finish every time, but I'm expecting a finish nonetheless. So I guess, yeah, it's a little crazy. I wasn't expecting 3 back to back to back in the first round.
Yeah, it could not be a better start to your amateur career. What was that confidence like, say, at the beginning of the year before you made that debut in February? Were you a little nervous to make that debut, as all fighters are? And then I'm sure fight by fight by fight, like you mentioned, the confidence is only growing.
Yeah, I mean, that first fight, I was a nervous wreck. But my coaches, they just reassured me, like, "Dude, you've been training, you know what you have, and you just got to go show it." So that's what I did, and it's been working for me, and I'm not going to stop. I love it.
Yeah, it's got to be easy too, and the confidence has to grow when you make it look as easy as you have in the cage. I mean, these finishes are not only coming in the first round, but very quick in the first round. I remember being on the call for your first fight against Nate Butts, and it was an immediate takedown, some ground and pound, and boom, it was over. It was a pretty fast fight. What do you credit most toward, this success that you've had so far in your career?
I attribute a lot of it to, if I'm being honest, the green wrestling room from when I was, in youth all the way up to my high school career, because I always had great coaching like Chris Kriebel, Jacob Bostic. I always had them in my corner. And then I also had people like Blake Schaefer, Nate Booth, just some really, really good wrestlers around me who pushed my wrestling to get better. And then trained jiu-jitsu with Chris Kriebel for a couple months, learned a lot off him, and really just fell in love with the sport of MMA off just working different martial arts by themselves.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about your GHS roots because I think you graduated there 2 or 3 years after I did. I actually had Chris Kriebel as a chemistry teacher, I think, in my sophomore year, something like that. I know you played football for the Bulldogs, also wrestled, but how did MMA actually come into your life at that point?
MMA wasn't really a plan for me until I'd say probably like 4 or 5 months after I graduated, because I was in a bad spot. I was getting in a lot of trouble, getting arrested, fighting in the streets, just being stupid. And one of my really good buddies that I train with, Matt Brown, he's like, look, dude, I got a gym. You can come train with us, see what it's about, see if you like it. And I thought about it and I was like, well, I can get paid and do something better with my life, or I can sit and just be a screw up and keep drinking and keep fighting and getting arrested. So I really did it to change my life, and I feel like it's been doing that really well for me.
Yeah, so when he kind of brings you into this mixed martial arts world, at what point or how long did it take you to realize that you wanted to have a future in this sport in mixed martial arts?
The first practice, he brought me in there and I started rolling around, and it's like it all came back to me. I was like, this is why I wrestle. I love this feeling. I love the pressure that it puts on me. You can't match it.
Were you a fan of the sport at the time, or were you truly unaware of what, the UFC and MMA really had to offer?
I say I knew about it, but I didn't understand it. I didn't understand weight cuts. I didn't understand the diet. I didn't understand how many hours you really have to put in. And like I said, that's just part of it. That adds on to that feeling that you can't match, and that's just can't beat it.
I'm sure when you first started, your wrestling was up to par given your wrestling history at Green, but were there some growing pains when you first were exposed to other disciplines like jiu-jitsu and striking for the first time training in mixed martial arts?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like when I started training MMA, my jiu-jitsu it gets the job done, but as I've been training, it's really refined itself, and my grappling style has really kind of evolved into a more jiu-jitsu base, even though I am a wrestler. So, I mean, I should be that all to Kriebel. I mean, he's just never seen anybody grapple like him, and I just try to emulate it.
And what about striking? I love asking fighters that, have a wrestling background and maybe get into more grappling jiu-jitsu of, those first couple practices having to learn to throw a strike, but also receive one too and not get hit.
I I like striking more than I like the ground. I like those flash knockouts. I like it being quick, and like Jeremy Riley's one fight when he was on the card with me, just that flash knockout. I told him after the fight, I was like, dude, you took knockout of the night because that was beautiful. Like, you set it up. He walked me through it afterwards. That's what I like. That's my stuff.
Being only 20
But
years old, how developed are you as a fighter? And is the idea of, having so much room to improve while still winning fights like you are in emphatic fashion exciting at such a young age?
oh, I love it because, in my opinion, it just shows that I'm not my fullest martial artist yet. I have a lot more that I can learn and a lot more I can show to people. So I'm excited to see where I'm at in 2-3 years. I've only been training for a little over a year now, so I'd love to see what I'm like in 2, 3, 4 years. See what's up.
So you fight out of Apex Fight Systems. I guess what attracted you to the gym? Maybe Matt Brown bringing you in, and what separates Apex from other MMA gyms out there?
The people in the gym are amazing, and they only want you to get better, and they push you. And it's not an easy gym to be in. The cardio's top notch. The striking's top notch, and the grappling's some of the best I've seen in a while. So I went in there and I was like, this is where I want to be. This is the room where I know I'm not the best, and I know that I'll learn the most. So that's where I wanted to be.
How exciting is it to be a part of Apex right now with a lot of guys who are around where you are in your career? It seems like a lot is going right for Apex fighters lately. Even in losses like Jeremy Riley's last fight, it was still an insane fight. I just feel like a lot is going well for Apex and their fighters.
Absolutely. I mean, I contribute that to the work ethic that the fighters bring in, and then our coach Brian just always pushing us. He doesn't let you have a day off, so he's always going to get the best out of you. And I think that's really what has been you can attribute to our success is just our work ethic.
I think something else that sticks out about you is the crowd behind you at these shows from the Chaparral Center. Is there anything like hearing that reception that you get each time you pull something off that's incredible in the cage?
No, it's you can't match it. I mean, I'm so grateful that I have all these people there in support of me. It's I can't even explain it really. It's a great feeling.
Do you dream of maybe competing on a bigger stage? I know Cage Thunder has done shows at the Canton Civic Center, one in Cleveland at Jacobs Pavilion, I believe. Have you dreamed of what those reactions would be like if you pull something off incredible at those events?
Absolutely. That's a dream for me. Get on the bigger stages, put on better shows, make more money. So can't yeah, that's what I'd love that.
I know getting cage time is so important as an amateur, and it's such a valuable asset to have when growing your game. You only have about 4 minutes of actual cage time in your 3 fights so far. Do you think about that at all, or are you happy to just get these fights finished in the first round like you have?
Well, I do want to get more cage time because I know that there's going to be a fighter one day where I'm not going to just be able to get that first round finish, or my grappling's not going to be, you know, so weird for him that he doesn't know what to do. But at the same time, I pride myself on getting finishes in fights. I don't like letting the judges in it, so I'm going to do whatever I can to get that finish in those 3 rounds or even 5 rounds.
When you look at your 3 fights, what would you say you've learned most about yourself and I guess the growth in your game from your 3 amateur fights so far?
Um, I would say the most growth I've really seen hasn't been like you wouldn't be able to see it in the cage because most of my fights go to the ground, but would be my striking. I've learned so much about the striking game in this year of training, and that's kind of why I fell in love with it. It's just, and I like learning it. I like becoming more dangerous, and I feel like through my striking getting better, I'll get a lot more dangerous.
How much more dangerous have you become since February when you made that amateur debut to where we are now in early to mid-June?
Leaps and bounds. I don't think you can really be put into words because I've been in the gym almost every day. Haven't been taking a lot of damage in my fights, so I can just get back in that cage, keep getting fights in. So I just see it. My amateur record when I go pro doesn't matter. So I can, if it happens, I take a couple of losses. It's not the end of the world. It's just more experience. So I'm not going to beat myself up over them.
I know fighters can be their own worst critic and are perfectionists, but when you look at your 3 fights, and usually I like asking fighters when they look to their amateur debut, do they hate how they looked? I mean, yours was such a quick finish, but when you look at any of your 3 fights so far, do you nitpick at things you could have done better, or with your flawless record and these 3 first-round finishes, it's not really like that for you?
There's always room for improvement. I watch back all my fights and I nitpick them. I don't try. I do. Like that last one against Joey Klein, I wasn't really impressed with it because, like I said, I didn't get to really work through a set of positions and show off how good my grappling is. I just kind of caught him in a weird move and put some pressure down. But to answer your question, yes, I do. I do nitpick all my fights, and there has been some where I'm not really that impressed, and that was one of them.
What's the reaction to others when you say something like that, where you're like, yeah, I wasn't really impressed by that first round leg scissors submission? Others got to be like, man, what the hell? Like, yes, you went out there and got the first round submission. What's that dynamic like?
It's yeah, that's how it usually goes. People are like, it was over 2 minutes. How can you be mad about that? I'm like, well, you need to understand that there's that, like the way I just explained it. I like the going through positions, getting to the back, and then getting a choke in. But Yeah, I can't complain about it. Can't complain about first round finishes.
Once again, this is Jack the Ripper Schaal here on Forged in Ohio. I have to ask what's next for you. I know Jake Digman asked you in the cage after your most recent win if Cage Thunder Next Gen Fight Series 2 is too soon for you on July 27th. Is that a card that fans can expect to see you on, or are we looking more into the future here?
I would expect a little farther down the road because I got 3 fights in a little under 5 months. I kind of wanted to slow that down a little bit, but I mean that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be in the cage. I'm not going to be in training. I'm still going to be ready. I'm still going to be getting the hours in the gym. Just really, my reasoning for it is I want to go out there next time and put on a clinic, and I want people to really realize, oh, he's a problem. He's gonna be something. So I want to refine my game a little bit, and then I want to get out there and put on an amazing show.
So you mentioned how you almost like the striking more than what you do on the ground and how far your striking has come since the amateur debut. Is that something that maybe you're trying to display next time you go out there, the striking, and maybe get one of those Jeremy Riley-esque knockouts?
Absolutely, that's a big goal for me. I'd love to get one of those Jeremy knockouts. Those things are crazy, but at the end of the day, I always say I'm a martial artist, and I go for the finish. So if I see a weakness or something I can exploit and it's on the ground, I'm not scared to go there. If I see that, you're dropping your hands a little bit when we're striking, I'm not scared to stay on the feet with you. So it's really whatever comes to me is what I'm going to take.
Having fought 3 times in a span of 4 or 5 months already, is this the type of pace and activity cycle that you're really trying to keep up?
Absolutely. I mean, as long as I'm not taking damage and I can get back in there, I love being in that cage. But like I did say, I want to slow it down a little bit. Maybe not, 9 fun fights in a year. Gotta keep that down a little bit. But I'd say I'll be back in there easily by the end of the year. I'll be back in there.
Have you noticed a physical toll on your body having competing so much in this 4-month span? I know the fights are short and maybe not much damage taken in those, but having those weight cuts and in training, I'm sure the toll might be building up on you.
I mean, I got a couple, little nicks and bruises that need, nurse back up. But besides that, not really. I did have a semi-hard for my last fight that kind of zapped my cardio a little bit. But nothing crazy, nothing that can't be fixed in a little bit or like a week or two. So I'm all good.
That's good to hear. Are you looking for a step up in competition moving forward, considering how easy you've made it look so far? Or, with 3 fights under your belt, are you just happy to take whatever's offered to you?
I mean, if whatever's offered to me, I'll take. But I would definitely like a step up in competition. I want someone either ranked higher than me or in the top 5 of welterweight for Cage Thunder.
Are there names that come to mind that you'd like to see yourself fight against, or not really?
I mean, the name that's been thrown around a lot for me and I'm liking is Connor Fott. I'd really like to get to Cage with him. No disrespect, but I think that'd be a great fight. I think we could put on a pretty good show for some people.
Yeah, and he just fought on the card that you fought on as well, and he has that kind of crazy, wild style. How do you think a fight between you and him would play out?
I believe that I would knock him out in either the first or second round. I'd try to keep it standing because, like I said, I'm trying to really show what I can do on the feet. But then again, I'm not scared to go anywhere in the cage. I'll bring the fight where I think I can get the finish.
All right, well, I like to hear it. I like that fight. I think it makes a lot of sense with where you are at in your career and where he's at in his career as well. Last one for you, man. How close do you think you are to competing for an amateur title? Already 3-0 in 4 or so months. Where are you at in terms of competing for that first amateur title?
I'm ranked number 2 in welterweight. If I get a top 5 win in impressive fashion, I don't see why not. My next fight, 5-0 and a belt. That sounds pretty cool.
I agree, man. It's an exciting time to be Jack the Ripper Schaal and a fan of Jack the Ripper Schaal as well. Before we wrap up, anything you want to shout out here at the back end of the show, I'll give you the floor here.
I'd really like to shout out my coaches, my teammates, and then especially Matt Brown for getting me in the gym and really changing my life with fighting. I can't thank him enough for that, and I owe him a couple of things, or I owe him for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe Matt Brown, a future guest on Forged in Ohio as well. Thanks again, Jack, for coming on the show. Your ceiling is very high, my friend, and you couldn't look better through 3 fights in 4 months to start your career. Before I get you out of here, I like to end these chats on Forged in Ohio with the OHIO chant. So, OH... Thanks, Jack. I don't take the time for granted, especially on vacation. Go enjoy that. I can't wait to see how this hot start for you in MMA unfolds, and we'll talk again soon, man.
Thank you, man. It was a pleasure.
That was Jack the Ripper Schaal, the 3-0 amateur mixed martial artist out of Apex Fight Systems. If you made a list of talent in Ohio who's still young but making a name for themselves in this sport, I think you could certainly make an argument that Jack Schaal deserves to be at the top of that list. What he's done in 4 months is incredible, and like I said earlier, he couldn't make it look any easier. He couldn't look any better in the cage if he wanted to. 3 fights, 3 first-round stoppages, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for Jack the Ripper Schaal. As always, I encourage you to download episodes while listening wherever you get your podcasts. That helps me out more than you know, along with subscribing to the Forged in Ohio YouTube channel. If you're watching right now, leave the video a like to support not only the show, but Jack Schaal as well. And go to Instagram and Facebook, search at Forged in Ohio, and give the podcast a follow on those 2 platforms. Thank you all for watching or tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Jake Murren, and this was Forged in Ohio.